This is Catch a Break, the insider's guide to breaking into and navigating Hollywood, conceived by Catchlight Films. Whether you are looking to work in film or television or new media, it's all production and it's all entertainment. Maybe you are already in the business, but looking to make a change, shift your focus, explore a new area. This is for you too. In each episode, Catch a Break brings you a panel of top experts currently working in the business for conversations you won't hear anywhere else. And we'll provide you with bonus materials you can get your hands on and sink your teeth into. We'll give you samples of paperwork and forms you need to be familiar with, video tutorials, exclusive resources that will all help with your success. The presenting sponsor of this episode is the entertainment payroll company Extreme Reach. They have the most comprehensive suite of tools and services to support all areas of media and content creation, from tax incentive support to accounting software and payroll services. If you are producing content, call Extreme Reach. This episode is also sponsored by vetyourcrew.com, a global database of entertainment professionals geared toward collaboration and inclusion. Think of it as a global address book for crew, which also has an interactive calendar to show when you're available, and a robust search engine to help you find and hire exactly who you're looking for. Go to vetyourcrew.com to sign up. You can find us at catchabreakpodcast.com and all the podcast providers. I am your host, Julie Harris Walker. You may know me from the podcast The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood, or even the Kiss My Age show. But today, the focus is on you and how we can help you to catch a break. Welcome to Catch a Break, and the episode we're calling You're Hired, Now What? This is the episode where we talk about what to do once you have been hired. You got the job. Congratulations. Now what? Now, some of this may sound very basic, but if we're talking about it, it's because we've seen it, and we want to make sure that you make the best impression possible and that you don't get derailed by doing something you can easily avoid. So let's introduce our panel, which today is made up of the founders of the Catch a Break program. So joining us today, we have Jeanette Volturno, who is the head of production at Blumhouse Productions and the founder of Catchlight Films. We also have Jessica Milanofi, an independent producer and a co-founder of Catchlight Films. Shirley Davis is a veteran film and television production executive, lecturer, and speaker, currently consulting at Imagine Entertainment. And we also have Lee Schneider, who is the founder of Red Cup Agency and is a podcast producer and host. He has worked as a writer, producer, and editor for more than 2 decades, and he's working with us on Catch a Break. Okay, so let's start with what are the do's? What are the important things to think about and do your first day on a set? Jeanette.
Take a call sheet, put it in your back pocket, walk around and introduce yourself to people, and then quiz yourself afterwards to try and remember what department and what name they are, and then ask them if they need any help.
That is excellent. And never lose that call sheet.
Always have a call sheet in your back pocket.
Jessica.
Be on time, and by that I mean be early, and always have something to do. There's not downtime on set. If you're starting out as a PA, find somebody in another department and see what you can do to help them in between.
Totally. It's a full-on see a need, fill a need.
What job is beneath you as a PA?
There's nothing beneath you as a PA. And by that I mean you're doing sometimes jobs that aren't exciting and aren't fun and not what you went to film school for. But if you do them right, there's still opportunities within them. So if you're bringing coffee for a producer, for example, and that producer is open to you staying by the monitor for a moment, being respectful, of course, use that as a moment to learn, and take that to your advantage as opposed to being bitter about the fact that you had to go and get somebody coffee. If you're making copies for somebody and it's appropriate, take a look at what you're copying and learn from that and learn from the call sheet and be able to ask questions. So don't think of it as beneath you, think of it as learning experience.
Because as you say, it's not actually about making the coffee, it's about having a good attitude, doing what needs to be done, showing up, being reliable.
Exactly.
All those things that you demonstrate by bringing the cup of coffee.
Exactly.
I've actually had, some of my first PA jobs were things like picking up cigarettes on the set because it needed to be cleared. I've literally done like the craziest, most mundane things for hours, but it got me to the next place, and I was a hard worker, and I got hired again for something else, and I moved up. I remember driving around for 3 hours one time, finding the right red ball for a dog, for a shot, for a commercial product placement kind of thing. Literally crazy stuff like that, but those things lead to the next thing if you do them well, and even though it seems crazy and wacky, you commit, you go for it, and then they see that you're trying, and you get recommended for the next job.
Lee.
Well, I love the call sheet idea. But I would say be aware of where the camera is, because this has happened often, and suddenly you're in a shot. You're not supposed to be. So I would say really be aware of things. And safety stuff too, like be aware of, like, don't hang out where all those cables look really cool. Don't hang out there.
Shirley, what are your do's for on set?
Do your research before you actually get to set. Find out as much information as you can about what happens on a set. Talk to anybody you might know beforehand and start to realize what the set etiquette is as soon as you get there. Be open, friendly, ready to do anything, and always remember to be of service.
Speaking of research, know who your VIPs are on set.
Absolutely.
Know who your lead actors are, who it is at the top of the call sheet, who the producers are, and the director obviously by sight, because you don't want to go up to the director and ask him where the bathrooms are.
Actually, that's a good point, is actually know the topography of what the set is. As soon as you get acclimated to it, it's really helpful to know where everything is so you could direct people and build your reputation that way as being the person who always has a positive attitude and is the go-to person. That's how you start to get jobs.
And dress appropriately.
I was just going to ask you, Jeanette, what should someone wear?
Pack multiple pairs of shoes if you're the person that doesn't like to wear the same pair for long periods of hours, because you are going to be on your feet for a long period of time. Weather appropriate to either peel or layer. Sunscreen. I always carry deodorant in my car just in case. Just got to be prepared. And get dirty. You're going to get dirty. So wear stuff that you don't mind getting dirty.
I learned the hard way once that if your call is at 4 a.m, it's eventually going to be 3 o'clock that afternoon. So put yourself together. Okay, I bet we also have a long list of don'ts. And the don'ts will be remembered bigger and longer, actually, than the do's. Because I'm sure we can all tell a story of someone who worked for us 10 years ago who did a big don't that we are still telling as a cautionary tale. Lee, do you have any of those?
Well, I shot a lot of documentaries, and weather was a big factor. Showing up prepared. There was one time where I was shooting in a really cold place, and I finished an interview, and I fell over because I was frozen in place. It was like minus 20 in Idaho, and I just wasn't dressed for the part. I didn't have good shoes. I wasn't really ready for anything like that. So I would say, what's the expression? Be prepared for bear. I don't remember what that expression is. There's some expression where, be ready for anything.
It's like the Boy Scout.
Boy Scout thing. Right, yeah. Be prepared for just about anything.
That goes along with your dressing.
Absolutely.
For every eventuality. Because if you freeze to death on set, you're the one who's suffering. And
if you're shooting a rain scene, like bring shoes that are rainproof.
Right.
You'll be miserable if you don't.
Fanny packs are okay on set.
Are they though?
Okay,
You
a
bring
knapsack.
Bring them back.
A knapsack.
Some sort of bag where your hands are free. And you can carry all your stuff. Because what are all the things you're carrying, Shirley?
You're carrying a pen. You're carrying your phone. You're carrying a charger. You're carrying deodorant. You're carrying
Walkies.
Walkie-talkie.
walkies, sides,
Paper to go with
Bricks.
that pen.
Yep.
What's a brick?
A brick is a hot battery. That is charged that you can hand out to other people.
A walkie-talkie battery.
Yeah.
And you're carrying a crew list.
Okay, so you need a bag, which right now is a fanny pack.
I have an objection, though. Objection to the fanny pack. I
Okay,
once
Lee?
had a fanny pack where I put a lot of chocolate in it. And I reached out to shake someone's hand, and it looked just what you think it looked like.
We're not cutting that
Just saying.
Lee has a long list of don'ts
Right.
from personal experience.
Exactly.
Okay,
Oh my
don't. Learn walkie-talkie etiquette so that you are not stepping on other conversations or asking for things at inappropriate times when they're filming.
Okay, let's talk about walkie-talkies for a minute. And we have a breakout session with Marcy Brown, who is part of this initial group, talking about walkie-talkies, how to use them, what to do. But let's go through a couple of those guidelines in addition to that. Besides, we'll teach you how to turn it on, put in the battery, what are the channels and how to use them. What are some of the phrases that go along with walkie-talkie use that you need to know?
Well, a 10-1 is going to the bathroom. So
Good
if
to
you're,
know.
if you're saying that, 10-4 is you understand the message. It's basic trucker lingo is still used in the film industry, so the same thing. 10-20 also used in trucker lingo is what's your location? Where are you at? Copy is when you've understood what someone said. Over and out, done.
That means you're done talking?
What about the different channels?
Each call sheet has a key on it that has the channel and what department is on that channel. So make sure that the general channel is usually 1. If you have to have a side conversation that the entire crew doesn't need to know about, you ask someone to go to 2. If you need to reach a department that's specific, like you need transpo or something like that, look on the call sheet to their number, click to that channel, ask for what it is that you need, wait for the response, and then say going back to 1. So they know that you've left that channel and gone back to the main channel with everyone.
So if you hear someone say go to 2 because you're going to talk about something really juicy, can I just click over to 2 and listen?
You shouldn't, but that is a possibility. So remember, everything that you say on that walkie can and will be heard by the rest of the team if you are not careful.
Including cast, including people who should not be hearing you gossip about things behind the scenes.
Because you don't know who's around. And if it's an open walkie, then you'll find out that you really do have to exercise your etiquette.
So I'm also hearing that you just shouldn't gossip in general.
Correct.
On the set.
Life lesson.
Yes. in any arena, actually. It's a very, very small business and everybody knows everybody.
Yes.
And also, even though you may be on location, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't act accordingly like you would in an office. Because essentially that's what it is. It's a traveling office.
And what about security and confidentiality? Jessica.
Confidentiality is really important. You should never have your phone out on set taking pictures. I think even if you're on the phone with somebody who's offset, and you make sure what information you're sharing. If you're just talking to even your parents and you're like, oh, I'm on set, here in Sherman Oaks and we're shooting this thing, you have to be really sensitive to who you're telling the information to. It's really important that you don't post any information on social media about where the set is, because you do get, whether it's looky-loos or we've had paparazzi show up on set, and it's just not safe when you have that kind of attention, especially for cast who might be dealing with things, and it's just generally not appropriate to share that.
I think it's a fireable offense at this point on some sets now.
It should be. It absolutely should be.
And don't stand by the monitor and watch something on your phone or check your Instagram or any of that stuff. That is an instant you will not be hired back. You have to be paying attention to what is going on the set and in front and behind the camera, and not on your phone.
Also know when it's appropriate to talk to directors and producers and cast on set. If you're really there to do a job, you should be paying attention to your job and know that the director is doing a job as well and doesn't necessarily have time to hear the pitch for your script. It's not appropriate to bring up those kind of things. And if a director opens the door, of course, we all want to be able to take advantage of those moments. But it's important that you understand the fine line of occupying somebody's time versus general niceties.
Generally, when is it appropriate to talk to a director on set?
That's very tricky because
Surely.
I think Jeanette had spoken one time about the fact that they're in their zone and you never know if they're just looking into space and thinking about the next scene or just taking a moment to themselves. So I think it's always better to err on the side of just being respectful and giving them their space as you would an actor and let them do their process. I think if they're engaging you, you might want to take the rule of greeting the queen. Don't go to them unless they come to you first.
And that's true at lunch too. Like, lunch is a great place on set where everybody gets to know everybody else, and you can really have a chance to talk to a lot of different department heads and crew members and find out what they do on set if you're interested to know more. But oftentimes the director's having a meeting with the AD and planning what the afternoon's work is and all of that kind of stuff. So you just have to be respectful again.
Let's talk about lunch since you brought that up. How should you behave at lunch if you're the PA, Jeanette?
You allow the working crew that will be first back on set to go through the lunch line first, and all of the actors, and respectfully wait until all of them have gone through before you grab your plate and go through the lunch line. That would be the first thing that you would do.
And what if it's your job to get lunch for everybody, like everyone in the office?
Oh, I've screwed that up.
Tell us, Jessica.
That was my very first job, was working on in the production office for a show called Numbers, and it was my job to take all of the lunch orders for everybody in the office. And I dutifully run around and collected on my sign-in sheet what everybody wanted, but I missed the location manager. He was out of the office. I don't know if he was on a phone call or out looking at locations. But when I brought the lunch order back, I did not have anything for the location manager. And boy, did I hear it. And I gave him my lunch and then immediately went out to go and get whatever he wanted. I made it up to him afterwards by going and getting him a coffee and trying to apologize profusely, and I never made that mistake again.
Yeah, that's a mistake you make one time.
Oh, yeah. And you learn very quickly that when you are doing lunch order, it seems like a silly thing, but when you're working as hard as everybody else is on set, getting that break and having that, food that you ordered show up in front of you, it really is actually a big deal. It's a comfort thing. And so you really learn, when you pick up the food, check every single order and make sure it's all there before you leave the restaurant. Make sure that you got all of the different little idiosyncrasies that you'll see on all of these lunch orders. It is important, and it means a lot to the crew when you get it right.
You don't want to be that one person that sets somebody off in a bad mood for the rest of the day.
Yeah, speaking from experience.
Lee, what should you do if you make a mistake?
Own up to it, I would say right away. Covering it up is usually going to be a disaster.
It doesn't make it better.
It doesn't make it better. Just say you made the mistake, you forgot something, or I've been on crews where someone forgot to bring an important piece of equipment. The sooner we know that, the better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're standing around while you go find it.
Okay, now let's talk about if you're not on set, but you're actually in the production office. What is specifically important there, Shirley?
Paying attention to what everybody's needs are, because during prep, it is the nerve center of the production. The producers are there, the directors are there, all the creative department heads are there, and that's where you're actually planning out a film, a television series, any digital content that you would be working on. And you need to be apprised of what everybody is doing if you're working as a production coordinator, production supervisor, production manager, anything to assist in the process. And you have to keep tabs on the schedule as well. But the most important thing I found when I came up during working in a production office was I had to be available 24/7. Essentially, because there was a lot of things that were dependent on my dissemination of information.
And someone may need that at 9 o'clock at night.
Right. And now it's much better because it's digitized, it's on different systems, it's a whole different way of being. And it's much easier, but still, if people need to get a hold of you, they definitely need to get a hold of you, especially if they're trying to track an actor, a director, a producer. You're the person they turn to.
So it's important to be responsive.
Absolutely.
It's hard to put hard boundaries down around your workday when you're in production.
I would say so, and I think that the production staff bears the brunt of that because they're the ones who are, you're customer service to the production. As someone said to me, you're the support of the support staff. And although that doesn't sound glamorous, it was actually an excellent way to learn a production from the ground up.
That is a great way to think about it, is you are customer service. You want to give people the best experience.
Even coming down to who answers the phone. If you're answering it and you sound like you're bothered, that rubs off on people right away.
Okay, speaking of answering the phone, Jessica, I know you have a real pet peeve about answering the phone and taking messages.
Yeah, I think it's making sure that you get all the information and remember that you're there on behalf of whoever you're taking the message for. I've seen time and time again assistants who will get a first name because the person on the other end of the phone expects that you should know who they are. And then when you give me that message and you say, "Oh, Mark called," and I have no idea who you're talking about.
Mark who?
Yeah, exactly. And then I have to go and go through my list of marks in my head and figure out, what it could. So the more information you can get, the better. And even if that means making somebody spell their name, repeat it, even if they're getting impatient with you, it's more important that you get the information right than get partial information or wrong information.
So then once you have a message, you just wait till the end of the day to deliver it, or do you interrupt someone who's in the middle of a meeting?
No, like Shirley was saying, production moves so fast that if there's anything, you have to use your judgment. I think a lot of times you can use other assistants to help. Like for instance, if a call comes in from one of the producers who's in a table read, you can ask the person on the other end of the phone, if it's the assistant to the producer or somebody else, is this something I need to interrupt for? And if it is, then you write it on a Post-it note, you quietly sneak into the meeting, slip that Post-it note just to the person that it's relevant to, and then slip back out, or if you're waiting for an answer, wait for the answer, slip back out, take a message, but make sure that you are erring on the side of getting the information to the person as quickly as possible.
Now, Jeanette, if you're working in the office and you really want to be involved in everything, should you assume you can go to meetings? Should you ask to go into meetings? How should you handle that?
You should wait to be invited into the meeting. You should help set up, and if you would like to ask, you can ask, but don't expect, and don't be hurt if you're not invited to a few of the meetings, because some of them will be closed door.
Okay. Jeanette, what does on a bell mean, and how do you behave during it?
When you're shooting on stage, they have a red light and a bell system. When the red light is on and the bell rings, You cannot walk around, you cannot say anything, your phone must be on silent, and you have to pay attention to what is going on. You cannot walk in and out of the doors or do no chewing on chips, nothing, no moving equipment, nothing. Absolutely
Freeze.
Quiet. Yeah, you freeze.
How can you take this opportunity to learn as much as you can?
I think it goes back to what Jeanette said at the beginning, which is get to know everybody on the crew and pitch in where you can. And so then you really get to know how each department functions. I mean, I think in the production office and as a PA, you really get an amazing overview of everything that's going on. And also, these are the people you're going to work with for the rest of your career. They'll always come in and out of your professional life, and you'll always share war stories. So the more you take the opportunity to get to know them on this first show, the better.
And to Jessica's point, you have to go in with the attitude that this is a long game and that these people will be in your life, as she said, and your community. And I think that changes how you interact with people because you're really committed to meeting people, helping them out, and establishing the boundaries of a lifelong work relationship and friendship. And I think that oftentimes people think because of the transitory nature of a production that it's not a permanent situation. And I think that that's another way to look at it.
Because these are the people who are going to get you your next job and who you're going to be working with over and over and over again.
And also just people that are fun to hang out with because you know them from show to show to show.
Yeah, I don't think it should be that they're going to get you your next job. I think you have to say, this is my choice. I'm meeting these people, and you empower yourself.
It's your extended family.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have no social life outside of this business.
So you better like the people you're working with.
Yeah, I would also say that this is one of the only industries that revolves the hierarchy in a way that most industries don't. So you can be working for someone now, and in a couple of months, they can be working for you. And then it can flip again and go the other way. So you have to be very humble, appreciative, kind, and pay it forward to the people that you're working with because they'll remember, and that could expand your world or collapse your world depending on how you grow within the industry. So it's not necessarily about the next job, but a referral, or when people check in on things as well, like if you're cool and they want to invite you to something or hang with you or put you on something or recommend you, like it follows you. You know, this is an extended family.
And also as a PA, you might have an opportunity to distribute things. You can distribute the per diem or distribute paychecks maybe, or just distribute call sheets. And what should you do with that opportunity?
It's a great way to get the crew because everyone is happy to see the person who's delivering the paychecks. And they will run out of the trucks and trailers and greet you. And it's a good way just to get to know every single person on the crew. And like Jeanette was saying with the call sheet, just knowing who everybody is half the battle.
And is it a good time to ask them like what they do and explain it to you? Because at some point you may want to pick one of those crafts to focus on.
Yeah, I think so.
Go to the back of every truck and figure.
Oh, that's a good one.
And ask them to show you around and to explain things because there is downtime. And if it's okay within your schedule, if it's during lunch and someone's around, like the times that are convenient for everybody, don't ask somebody while they're on lunch to show you their truck.
Yeah, it's a hurry up and wait industry. So there's a lot of running around in the morning, and then there's a lot of downtime. And then there's a lot of running around again, and then there's a lot of downtime. So if you watch the ebb and the flow of the set and you see who's sitting down and who's taking a break, then would be the appropriate time to go and introduce yourself and say that you're interested in learning a little bit more about what it is that they do.
And you don't have to be frantic about anything you do. Like you don't have to feel like you need to get in every conversation with everybody on a set. There will be enough time to meet
You don't have to do it all your first day.
Exactly. Or your second day.
Did you have something, Lee?
I was just thinking one thing to think about is asking good questions, asking smart questions. It goes to don't waste people's time, but I'm often listening to people by the quality of the questions they ask, not just making sort of empty conversation just because they're nervous or something like that.
Do you have an example?
I would say, how do you ask a good interview question, since I've done a lot of documentaries? Or why is the camera there and not there? Or why are we using this whole throw of the room? We're shooting corner to corner. Why are we doing that? Things like that, set up things and Q&A things in interviews. Those are some of the best questions I've gotten anyway.
Like why a decision was made, why you're doing something a certain way.
Right. And from the equipment side of things and also just the creative side of things. Like, why are we shooting this scene now instead of later? But why, in my world, in the podcast documentary world, why are we asking the questions in this order? And why are we re-asking that question? What was wrong with that one the first time? Or something like that.
Why are you doing one more take?
Why are you doing one more take? What was wrong with that take?
Now, who has a story of something that went terribly wrong, or a mistake they learned from, or a mistake someone else made that you never could forget that someone else did? Who has a good, juicy horror story?
I had an intern one time when I was working at a studio who was making copies of a report, and this is a report that all of the executives at the studio work to put together. It's a competitive development report, and they call all of their contacts at all of the other major studios, and they confidentially trade information, and that's how studios know what other studios are releasing, what's on their slate, how far along that project is. For a whole host of reasons. It's really important information, but it's all based on those relationships and connections that each executive has. So I had an intern who was making copies of this binder that we were going to distribute the next day, and he took it upon himself to make a copy to share with his entire film school class as well, and it got posted online.
Yikes.
Which then compromises the integrity of all the executives who now have to call all of their friends and apologize for leaking all the confidential information that they shared. So needless to say, that person was fired, escorted out of the building immediately, and faced repercussions at his school as well.
Bad. Right, I had an intern who was working for free and showed up 20 minutes late to call every day, like 3 days in a row, and every day he'd say, "What's the big deal? I'm just 15 minutes late." It was a big deal, and he got fired. And I still remember, and it was 25 years ago.
Someone at a former production company that I worked at uploaded the co-head of a company's screener prior to the film's release.
Yikes.
And it got pirated all over the world.
And that became an international incident.
Pretty much. It was really, it was pretty tragic.
That's really bad.
Yeah, and we were quite surprised at our offices to have the FBI show up a day before we broke for the holiday.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Anyone else?
It's important, again, to look at all this as a long game. If you're doing things on a transactional level, like, posting that screener online or sharing this confidential report or showing up 15 minutes late, those all seem like small things that get you a little bit further ahead in the moment. But again, these are people you're going to be working with for the rest of your career potentially, and the damage that you can do to your relationship by any of those actions is not worth the short-term gain.
I think it cannot be overemphasized how small the business is.
For sure.
And how much people talk and how much it actually matters.
If you don't think your mother will approve, don't do it.
Good rule of thumb. Okay, this brings us to our martini shot, which means your last shot of the day. What is everyone's final takeaway from this? Either your favorite do or your favorite don't. Jeanette.
I would say that this is a career that is not for the faint at heart, and everything that you do, you need to prepare for, and remember that you want to prepare for things and you want to be the best that you can and change course as many times as you want, because there are many different ways to get to the point of the ultimate career that you want to be at. So don't be afraid to try things and open doors and experiment and talk to people, but ultimately do your research and be prepared.
Jessica.
The biggest thing I've learned is to have each other's backs, because there are problems that are going to come up and there are things that we're all going to screw up, but being able to be honest and upfront about that and know who to go to that you can trust to help you fix the project helps us all get through this. It's a really hard thing that we're doing, and it should be fun, and we should be able to trust the people that we're working with.
Thank you. Lee.
Everyone has their own way of doing things, and you may be new and think you're brilliant, and maybe you are, but the guy who's loading the truck has an order that he wants to put that equipment in the truck, and people have ways of coiling cables and handing out scripts. There's a million different ways of doing things, and you have to respect that. If you show up and say, I know how to do that,
in my film school.
Yeah, it's not going to work that well. So you have to kind of learn a little bit from the people around you. And definitely this idea of connecting, it's such a community. You will meet the people who you left last week. You're going to meet in the weeks to come.
Yes, thank you. Shirley.
To Lee's point, you have to behave well so that people welcome you back to the next production and the next production. And the other thing, as Jeanette said, it's super helpful to be flexible in your thinking. As someone has said to me, be open and not judgmental. You may think that you want to direct. However, you may meet someone on set and they're a prop master and you fall in love with their craft. So don't assume you know everything you need to know about yourself, because it might surprise you what you fall in love with on set that you may want to do. And it may not actually even be on set. Maybe it's being a producer off set or making deals or being an agent. Just be open to, what comes in your path.
I think that's great advice, and I think if you talk to 100 people in entertainment, they'll give you 100 different paths about how they got where they are, and it's probably not what they thought they'd be doing at the beginning. All right, I would like to thank our panel, Jeanette Volturno, Jessica Milanofi, Lee Schneider, Shirley Davis. I am your host, Julie Harris Walker, and we hope that this helps you to catch a break. This has been Catch a Break, the insider's guide to breaking into and navigating Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. Special thanks to our intern, Akiva Nemetsky, and our consultant, Lee Schneider of Red Cup Studios. Thanks also to Audio Department, who generously provided the recording equipment, and Jean Milanofi, who designed our logo. And a big thank you to Andrew Jocelyn, who created our theme song, Mantra for a Struggling Artist, and any additional music you hear throughout. Catch a Break is produced by Jeanette Volturno, Jessica Milanofi, Marcy Brown, Rick Osako, Shirley Davis, and me, Julie Harris Walker. Now go check out our next episode that I'm calling It's All Greek to Me, or What Are All These People Talking About? We're going to go through all the lingo and all the terms and all the language and let you know what everything means so that you can have a leg up. You can find us at catchabreakpodcast.com, and that is also where you can go to download the bonus materials. Join our mailing list so you don't miss an episode or other programs, and we want to hear from you, so reach out through the website. Again, that's catchabreakpodcast.com. And also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Thanks for listening, and we hope this helps you to catch a break.